Have you ever felt like confidence is just always out of reach? Like it's something reserved for the lucky few, the ones who were born with it? If that's what you've been told, I'm here to tell you that's a lie. Confidence isn't a gift. It's a skill. A skill that anyone, yes, anyone, can learn. And today I'm going to show you how. Let me start with a quick story. A few years ago, I was trapped in this exhausting cycle of self-doubt. Every choice I made, every conversation I had, was filled with fear, hesitation, and second-guessing. I felt like an imposter, living in my own life. And then I discovered Stoicism. It was like a switch flipped. The deeper I went into Stoic philosophy, the more I realized something powerful. Confidence isn't about being perfect. It's not about always having the answers. It's about learning to be at peace with imperfection. It's about embracing uncertainty and showing up as your authentic self. So, if you're ready to shift your mindset and unlock a level of confidence you never thought possible, stick with me. What I'm about to share with you isn't your typical self-help advice. Just bold. It's uncomfortable. And it just might challenge everything you've ever believed about confidence. But trust me, it works. Let's dive in. Lesson 1. Learn to say no. Let's start with something that might make some people uncomfortable. Learning to say no. We live in a world that teaches us to be people pleasers. To say yes to every request, every invitation, every favor, just to be liked, accepted, or seen as nice. But here's the truth. Always saying yes is a fast track to losing your confidence and your self-respect. Let me get personal for a second. There was a time in my life when I said yes to everything. I thought that agreeing to help, showing up, and always being available would make people like me more. I thought it would lead to success. But instead, I felt drained, overwhelmed, and honestly, a little resentful. I was living on other people's terms, not my own. I remember one week in particular. I had agreed to help a friend move, take on extra work assignments, and attend 3 social events, all in the same week. By the end of it, I was exhausted. And worse, I had no time or energy left for myself. My confidence was shattered, not because I failed anyone else, but because I had completely abandoned me. Here's the hard truth. Saying no is one of the most powerful things you can do for your confidence. It's not selfish. It's self-respect. When you say no, you're drawing a boundary. You're saying, my time matters. My energy matters. And I matter. And the amazing thing is, people might not like it at first, but they will respect you more when you stand your ground. Now let's be real. Saying no can be scary. You might fear judgment, rejection, or conflict. But every time you say yes when you really mean no, you're betraying yourself. You're telling your mind, my needs don't matter. My limits don't count. And over time, that chips away at your confidence. Think about it. How many times have you said yes to something you didn't want to do and ended up frustrated, resentful, or burned out? How often have you put your own needs on the back burner just to keep someone else happy? Saying no isn't rude. It's not cold. It's honest. It's authentic. It's about living life on your terms and making choices that align with who you are and what you truly value. So next time someone asks for something, pause. Ask yourself, do I really want to do this? Does this align with my priorities? The answer is no. Say it. Own it. Stand by it. Your confidence will thank you for it. Lesson 2. Accept your flaws. Let's talk about something most of us avoid. Accepting your flaws. Now, before you roll your eyes or click away, let me be clear. This isn't about giving up. It's not about making excuses or saying, well, this is just the way I am. No, this is about something deeper. It's about embracing your humanity. About realizing that your imperfections aren't weaknesses. They're part of your story. They're what make you real. For a long time, I believed confidence meant being flawless. That to be respected, admired, even loved, I had to be perfect. Perfect body, perfect career, perfect words, perfect life. But that belief, it didn't make me better, it broke me. I was constantly anxious, constantly second-guessing myself. I nitpicked every little thing, the way I looked, the way I talked, the way I worked. I was never satisfied, because no matter how hard I tried, it was never enough. And deep down, I was terrified that people would see through the cracks. Here's what I finally realized. Perfection is a lie. It doesn't exist. Not in you. Not in me. Not in anyone. And chasing it is like running a race with no finish line. Real confidence, the kind that lasts, doesn't come from covering up your flaws. It comes from facing them and saying, "This is who I am. And I'm still worthy." Let me give you a personal example. I used to be extremely self-conscious about public speaking. The thought of standing in front of people made my palms sweat. I was afraid I'd stumble, forget my words, embarrass myself. So I avoided it for years. But one day I was forced into it, a work presentation I couldn't say no to. I was nervous. I made mistakes. I even lost my train of thought halfway through. But I survived. And something unexpected happened. People thanked me afterward. Not because I was perfect, but because I was honest, relatable, real. And that was the moment I learned. Confidence isn't about performance. It's about presence. Since then, I've spoken many times, still flawed, still human. But every time I grow a little stronger, a little freer, a little more myself. So let me ask you, how many times have you held yourself back because you feared your flaws would be exposed? How many opportunities have you turned down because you thought you weren't good enough? The Stoics believed our flaws are part of nature. Not something to be ashamed of, but something to understand and grow from. Flaws don't make you unworthy. They make you human. And when you embrace that humanity, when you stop hiding, stop pretending, you unlock a different kind of confidence. A deeper one. So the next time you catch yourself picking apart your reflection, or replaying something you said over and over in your head, pause. Ask yourself, is this really as bad as I'm making it out to be? Or am I just holding myself to an impossible standard? Let go of the illusion of perfection. Embrace who you are, cracks and all. Because confidence doesn't come from pretending to be flawless. It comes from being authentic, from standing in your truth, from showing up, imperfect but fully alive. You don't need to be perfect to be powerful. You just need to be real. Lesson 3. Understand the limits of your knowledge. Let's talk about something that takes real courage. Admitting you don't know. In a world that praises having all the answers, this might sound like a weakness. But the truth is, it's one of the most powerful things you can do for your confidence. I used to be the kind of person who always tried to appear in control. Whether it was in meetings, social conversations, or even small talk, I felt this pressure to know everything, or at least pretend I did. Why? Because deep down I was afraid. Afraid that if I said, "I don't know," people would see me as less capable, less smart, less valuable. But that fear? It didn't make me stronger. It made me anxious, insecure, and constantly afraid of being found out. I remember one specific moment. I was in a team meeting at work, and someone asked me a technical question. I didn't know the answer. But instead of admitting it, I fumbled through a vague explanation, hoping no one would notice. They noticed, and the silence that followed said everything. I walked away from that meeting feeling humiliated, not because I didn't know the answer, but because I wasn't honest about it. And that's when I learned something life-changing. Saying "I don't know" is not a failure. It's a beginning. It's a sign of strength, of humility, of inner confidence. The Stoics taught that wisdom begins when we acknowledge our own ignorance, that recognizing what we don't know opens the door to everything we can learn. From that day forward, I made a decision. I stopped pretending. I started asking questions. I began seeking out mentors, reading more, listening more, and most importantly, being honest when I didn't know something. And something incredible happened. People didn't respect me less. They respected me more. Because honesty builds trust, and curiosity builds growth. You don't need to know everything. You just need to be willing to learn. Let me ask you something. How many times have you kept quiet in a meeting or conversation just because you were afraid of sounding dumb? How often have you nodded along even though you didn't understand, just to avoid embarrassment? But here's the thing. Pretending to know steals your confidence. Asking to learn builds it. The moment you say, "I don't know, but I'd like to find out," you stop performing and start growing. The Stoics believed that wisdom isn't about what you know. but about how open you are to keep learning. So the next time you're in a situation where you're unsure, don't fake it. Don't bluff your way through. Pause, breathe, and simply say, I'm not sure, but I'm going to learn. That humility, that mindset, it's the foundation of real confidence. Because true confidence isn't pretending you're perfect. It's standing firmly in your imperfection and being bold enough to grow. Lesson 4, speak less, listen more. In today's world, being loud often gets mistaken for being confident. We're told to speak up, stand out, take space. And don't get me wrong, there's a time and place for that. But let me offer a different perspective. Real confidence doesn't always raise its voice. Sometimes it listens. Let me share a personal story. For a long time, I believed that to be seen as smart or confident, I had to always have something to say. I thought the more I talked, the more people would value me. So I became that person. The one who always had an opinion, always ready to jump in, always filling the silence. And then one day, during a group conversation, a close friend pulled me aside and gently said, "Do you realize you talked almost the entire time? No one else really got to speak." That hit me hard. I wasn't just dominating the conversation. I was missing it entirely. I wasn't listening. I was waiting for my turn to speak, and in trying so hard to be heard, I had stopped hearing. That was a turning point for me, because the truth is, speaking less doesn't make you less valuable. Listening more doesn't make you weak. In fact, it makes you stronger. Why? Because when you listen, you learn. You gain insights you would have missed. You connect with people on a deeper level. And you show that you don't need to prove your worth, because you're secure in who you are. The Stoics taught that wisdom begins with understanding, and understanding begins with silence. So after that conversation with my friend, I made a conscious decision. I started asking more questions. I let others finish their thoughts before responding. I paused and truly paid attention. And what happened? People opened up. Conversations became richer. My relationships grew deeper. And I felt more grounded, more confident. Because I wasn't just talking. I was connecting. Let me ask you, when was the last time someone truly listened to you, without interrupting, judging, or rushing you? Felt good, didn't it? Now imagine giving that gift to someone else. Again and again. That's what real confidence looks like. It's not about having the loudest voice in the room. It's about knowing when to speak and when to listen. Because the most confident person isn't the one who talks the most. It's the one who makes space for others to be heard. So next time you find yourself in a conversation, try this. Talk a little less. Listen a little more. Ask a thoughtful question. Let someone finish without interrupting. Stay curious, because when you listen, really listen, you don't just grow in knowledge. You grow in connection, in empathy, and in quiet, steady confidence. Remember, your voice matters, but so does your silence. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Lesson 5, embrace the present moment. Let me ask you something simple. When was the last time you were truly present? Not thinking about yesterday, not worrying about tomorrow, just here. Fully, completely here. If you're like most of us, being present has become rare. Because the truth is, we live in our heads more than we live in the moment. I know I did. For years, I was a chronic overthinker, always racing ahead in my mind. What if this happens? What should I say next? Did I mess that up yesterday? I was everywhere, except in the now, and it was exhausting. There's one moment I'll never forget. I was sitting with a friend and we were watching the sunset. It was beautiful, one of those rare golden evenings, but I missed it. I was too busy stressing about an upcoming project, rehearsing conversations in my head, worrying about outcomes I couldn't control. At one point, my friend nudged me and said, "Hey, are you even here right now?" That hit me like a wave, because I realized something painful. I was missing my life while it was happening. All the little joys, all the quiet beauty, all the real moments, they were passing me by, because my mind was always somewhere else. And that's when I made a choice, to come back, to the present, to now. The Stoics taught this again and again. that the present moment is all we ever truly own. The past? It's gone. The future? Not promised. But now, this breath, this heartbeat, this is where life happens. And when you learn to live here, you unlock something powerful. Clarity. Peace. Confidence. I started practicing mindfulness, not in some complicated or mystical way, just in simple things. I paid attention to my breath. I looked people in the eye when they spoke. I listened more deeply. I noticed small things, the way sunlight hits a wall, the sound of leaves moving in the wind. And slowly, I felt alive again. I felt grounded and more confident, not because I had all the answers, but because I was connected to the one thing that's real. This moment. Let me ask you, how many moments have you lost to overthinking? How many memories blurred because your mind was somewhere else? Now imagine this instead. Waking up and actually feeling your morning. Sitting with someone and truly hearing them. Doing your work with full presence and no mental noise. That's not just peace. That's power. Because when you live in the moment, you stop being ruled by fear of the future or regret of the past. You stop fighting with what's not here. You start trusting yourself. And that's where confidence begins to bloom. So next time you catch your thoughts running wild, pause, take a deep breath, look around, come back to this breath, this second, this life. Because confidence isn't found in controlling everything that might happen. It's found in being fully awake to what's happening now. And the more present you become, the more powerful you'll feel. Not someday, not later, no. Lesson 6. Seek wisdom from others. We live in a world that praises independence. Do it yourself. Figure it out on your own. Prove you're strong by not needing anyone. But here's what no one tells you. Trying to do everything alone isn't strength. It's isolation. And I learned that the hard way. There was a time in my life when I believed asking for advice was a sign of weakness. If I didn't know something, I kept it to myself. If I struggled, I hid it behind a smile. I thought admitting I needed help would make people see me as less capable. So I stayed silent. And guess what? I stayed stuck. I remember one project at work in particular. I was in over my head, totally lost. But instead of reaching out to someone more experienced, I kept grinding, pushing, trying to figure it out. Days went by. I made mistakes, wasted time, wore myself out. Finally, in frustration, I asked a colleague for help. Within minutes, he pointed me in the right direction. Not only that, he gave me insights that completely changed the way I approached the problem. And that moment changed me, because I realized something simple but life-changing. Asking for wisdom isn't weakness, it's strength. It shows that you value growth over ego, learning over pride, connection over pretending. The Stoics believed that we should always be students of life, always learning, always growing, and always seeking wisdom from those who've walked the path before us. Since then, I've made it a habit to reach out more. I look for mentors. I ask questions. I listen to the lessons hidden in people's stories. And it's transformed not just what I know, but how confident I feel. Because when you surround yourself with wisdom, you stop feeling like you're in it alone. You realize you're part of something bigger, a chain of learning, of growth, of shared experience. Let me ask you, how many times have you struggled silently just to avoid asking for help? How many valuable lessons have you missed, simply because you didn't want to admit you didn't know? Imagine this instead. You hit a wall, and instead of pretending, you reach out, you learn, you grow. That's not failure. That's power. That's confidence. Because confidence isn't about always having the answer. It's about having the courage to seek it. The wisdom you need might be one conversation away, one question, one shared story. So don't let pride keep you stuck. Open the door. Learn. The Stoics believed that life is a school, and everyone you meet is a teacher. So pay attention, listen closely, and never be too proud to grow. Here's the truth. We rise faster when we rise together. Lesson 7. Cultivate a growth mindset. In a world that glorifies natural talent, we often forget the power of effort. We're taught to admire the gifted, the ones who are naturally good at something. We say things like, "Wow, they're just born with it. He's a natural. she's just lucky. But here's the truth. Confidence doesn't come from what you were born with. It comes from what you believe you can become. Let me tell you a story. For years, I believed that if I wasn't instantly good at something, it meant I wasn't meant for it. If I couldn't do it perfectly the first time, I'd give up. Why bother trying, right? I carried that belief into so many areas of my life, from learning new skills to taking risks in my career. And it held me back more than any mistake ever did. I remember trying to learn guitar. I struggled with basic chords. My fingers hurt. I felt clumsy, embarrassed. After a week, I told myself, maybe I'm just not musically talented. And I nearly quit. Then I stumbled across the concept of the growth mindset. The idea that intelligence and ability are not fixed. That we can get better at anything, with effort, persistence, and time. That hit me like a lightning bolt. I realized I wasn't bad at guitar. I was just new. And instead of quitting, I leaned in. I practiced a little more each day. And slowly, I improved. But here's the beautiful part. It wasn't just my playing that changed. It was the way I saw myself. I stopped calling myself bad at things. I stopped fearing failure. And I started welcoming it as proof that I was growing. The Stoics believed that we are never finished products. That every day is a chance to improve, to evolve, to move closer to our potential. Confidence doesn't mean I'm already the best. It means I believe I can get better. Let me ask you, how many times have you told yourself you're just not good at that? How many opportunities have you passed up because you didn't think you were ready? What if you stopped measuring your worth by your starting point and started measuring it by your willingness to improve? What if, instead of avoiding challenges, you started seeing them as invitations? Invitations to rise, to stretch, to become more than you were yesterday. That's the growth mindset, and it changes everything. Since adopting it, I've faced fears I used to run from. I've tried things I once avoided. And each time I fail, I don't crumble. I learn. I adjust. I move forward, stronger. So next time you struggle, don't say, I'm not good at this. Say, I'm learning. I'm growing. I'm getting better every time. Because you are. The truth is, none of us are finished. We're all works in progress. And that's not a flaw. That's the gift. So keep going. Keep growing. And let your belief in your ability to improve become the foundation of unshakable confidence. Lesson 8. Develop emotional intelligence. Let's talk about something that doesn't get enough credit, but has the power to completely transform your confidence. Emotional intelligence. Now, I used to misunderstand what that meant. I thought emotional intelligence was about being soft or overly sensitive. I thought it meant letting emotions run the show. So I did the opposite. I pushed my emotions down. I stayed logical. I kept things bottled up because I thought that made me stronger, tougher, more in control. But here's the truth. Ignoring your emotions doesn't make you stronger. It makes you disconnected. Disconnected from yourself, from others, from the moment. I remember a time at work when a colleague gave me some constructive feedback. It wasn't mean. It wasn't unfair. But the moment I heard it, I felt attacked. I got defensive. I snapped back. And I walked away from that interaction feeling angry, embarrassed, and misunderstood. Later that night, I realized it wasn't about the feedback. It was about my reaction. Because I hadn't learned how to process my emotions. I let them control me. And that's when I began the real work. The Stoics taught that mastering yourself, your impulses, your emotions, is one of the greatest forms of power. It's not about having no emotions. It's about understanding them, listening to them, and choosing your response instead of reacting on autopilot. So I started small. I practiced pausing before I responded. I paid attention to what triggered certain emotions in me. Instead of suppressing how I felt, I got curious about it. I began to ask, what am I really feeling right now? Where is this emotion coming from? What do I need to handle this wisely? And the more I practiced that awareness, the more control I had, not just over my emotions, but over my confidence. Because when you're emotionally intelligent, you don't get shaken as easily. You don't take everything personally. You don't explode or shut down when things don't go your way. You respond with clarity, with presence, with strength, and that makes people trust you, makes you trust you. Let me ask you, how many times have you said something in the heat of the moment and regretted it later? How many times have you shut down emotionally when what you really needed was to feel, reflect, and respond? Now imagine this instead. You get triggered, but you stay grounded. Someone challenges you and you stay calm. You feel overwhelmed, and instead of reacting blindly, you slow down and choose your next step with intention. That's emotional intelligence, and it's a superpower, not just for your relationships, but for your inner peace, for your confidence, for the way you lead your life. So how do you start building it? Start with awareness. Name what you feel. Don't judge it, just notice it. Then practice regulation. Pause. Breathe. Choose your words instead of letting them fly. And finally, practice empathy. Look beyond your own emotion and try to understand what others are feeling too. Because confidence isn't just about being emotionally tough. It's about being emotionally wise. And when you develop that wisdom, you become unshakable. Not because life stops testing you, but because you've learned how to respond with grace, courage, and clarity. Lesson 9. Engage in physical exercise. Alright, let's talk about something that might seem obvious, but is often overlooked when it comes to confidence. Physical exercise. Now before you roll your eyes and think, yeah, I know I should work out. Hear me out. Because this isn't just about six-pack abs or burning calories. This is about something much deeper. Your mind, your energy, your self-respect. I'll be honest with you. There was a time in my life when I completely neglected my body. Long hours at work, barely any sleep, eating whatever was quick and convenient. And exercise? Forget about it. I kept telling myself, I'll get to it when things calm down. But they never did. And slowly, without even noticing, I started to feel stuck, mentally, emotionally, and physically. I felt heavy, foggy, disconnected. And the worst part? My confidence was slipping away. Then one day, after a particularly stressful week, a friend told me, "Dude, go for a run. Just move your body." I laughed. I almost brushed it off. But something in me said, "Try." So I did. It wasn't pretty. I was out of breath in minutes. My legs were on fire. But after that short jog, something shifted. I felt clearer, more alive, lighter, not just in my body but in my mind. And that's when I realized, movement isn't just physical, it's emotional, it's mental, it's spiritual. The Stoics believed in harmony between mind, body, and soul. They saw physical health not as vanity, but as discipline, as respect for the vessel that carries you through life. And they were right. Since that day, I've made movement a non-negotiable. Sometimes it's a run. Sometimes it's yoga. Sometimes it's just a walk under the trees. But whatever it is, I move. Not to chase an ideal body, but to connect with my own strength, to feel grounded, to reset. And the benefits? My mood is better. I sleep deeper. I think clearer. And yes, I feel more confident. Because when your body feels strong, you stand taller. You breathe deeper. You face the world differently. Let me ask you, how often do you feel stuck and just sit in that feeling? How often do you forget that your body is your ally, not your enemy? You don't need to train like an athlete. You don't need a gym membership or fancy gear. You just need to move. Even 20 minutes, even a walk, even a stretch. Your body holds so much wisdom. And when you activate it, even a little, you awaken something powerful inside you. The Stoics would say, don't ask for a lighter burden. Ask for a stronger back. So build that strength not just for looks, for resilience, for clarity, for self-respect. Because the way you treat your body is a reflection of how you value yourself. And when you start moving, you'll feel it. A quiet kind of confidence, rooted in discipline, fueled by energy, built one step at a time. So get up, move your body, and watch what happens to your mind. Lesson 10. Surround yourself with positive influences. Let's talk about something that most people overlook when it comes to confidence. The people around you. Because here's the hard truth. Your environment either builds you or breaks you. We like to think we're totally independent, that we can rise above any negativity around us. But we're human, and like it or not, energy is contagious. Moods are contagious. Mindsets are contagious. And the people you spend time with, they shape how you see yourself more than you realize. I learned this lesson the hard way. There was a point in my life when I was surrounded by negativity. Colleagues who constantly complained. Friends who doubted everything, including me. People who saw problems in every possibility. At first, I told myself, I can handle it. I'm not like them. But over time, something subtle started to happen. I started to doubt myself more. I felt drained after every conversation. And little by little, my confidence began to slip. It wasn't until one night, I was alone, exhausted, mentally foggy, that it finally hit me. It wasn't me that had changed. It was the voices I was listening to. So I made a decision. One that changed everything. I started choosing my circle, intentionally. I began to seek out people who lifted me up. Mentors who challenged me to grow. Friends who believed in possibility, who celebrated progress, who spoke with purpose. And let me tell you, the shift was almost immediate. I felt more motivated, more focused, more clear. But most importantly, I started to believe in myself again. Because when you surround yourself with people who see the best in you, you start to see it too. The Stoics taught that we become like the people we spend time with. So choose wisely. You don't need a massive social circle. You don't need everyone to like you. You need the right people. The ones who encourage your growth, not your self-doubt. The ones who challenge you with love, not criticism. The ones who remind you who you are, especially when you forget. Let me ask you, who are the 5 people you spend the most time with? Do they lift you up or pull you down? Do they inspire confidence or drain it? And here's the real question. What would happen if you started surrounding yourself with people who genuinely want to see you win? It doesn't happen overnight. But every small shift, every boundary you set, every connection you deepen, every draining relationship you walk away from, it matters. Because your environment shapes your energy, and your energy shapes your life. So be intentional. Seek out people who make you feel alive, who challenge you to be better, not bitter, who remind you of your worth when the world tries to make you forget it. And here's the final piece. Be that person for someone else. Be the encourager. Be the light. Be the one who uplifts, inspires, and believes. Because what you give is often what you attract. Surround yourself with positivity, and you'll build a confidence that's not just strong, but unstoppable. So let's bring it all together. Confidence. It's not some magical trait you're either born with or forever missing. It's not about being loud or perfect or always knowing what to say. Confidence is a skill. It's something you build, one decision at a time. One moment of courage at a time. One honest choice at a time. Every time you say no when something doesn't align with you, you build confidence. Every time you accept your flaws instead of hiding them, you build confidence. When you admit you don't know, but stay open to learning. When you listen instead of trying to impress. When you come back to the present moment, seek wisdom from others. Grow through effort, feel your emotions, move your body, and surround yourself with people who uplift you. You are building something real, something unshakable, something that no one can take away from you. You're building you. You don't need to wait until you feel ready. You don't need permission. And you definitely don't need to be perfect. You just need to take the next step and believe that who you're becoming is already inside you waiting to rise. So if this message spoke to you, if even one lesson lit a spark inside you, do something with it. Tap that like button. Share your thoughts and your story in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. And if you're new here, welcome. This is your space now too. Hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell icon, because we're building a community, not of perfection, but of purpose, not of ego, but of wisdom, not of noise, but of clarity. And if you'd like to support the channel and be part of what we're building, check out the links below. Join us on Patreon for behind-the-scenes content, early access, and more ways to connect. Or buy me a coffee if you feel like sharing a little love. Every gesture helps keep this going. More than anything, Thank you for being here, for showing up, for choosing to grow. Because every moment is a new chance to live with courage, with clarity, and with confidence. So take a breath, stand tall, and go live like you mean it. I'll see you in the next video.